Everyone thinks they'd notice if someone were manipulating them. Most manipulation works precisely because you never notice. It doesn't feel like an attack. It feels like your own idea. Gaslighting is when someone rewrites your memory of an event until you stop trusting what you actually saw and felt. It's not lying about facts. It's lying about your right to perceive facts at all. Here's the mechanism. Your brain treats social confidence as evidence. If someone states your memory is wrong with total certainty, your brain flags your own memory as the shaky variable, not theirs. Confidence gets mistaken for accuracy. Repeat that enough times, and you stop checking reality against your own senses. You check it against them. Here's the part most people don't sit with. The gaslighter often isn't lying consciously. They believe their version too, which makes them more convincing, not less. The real cost isn't one false memory. It's the slow death of self-trust. You don't just lose an argument. You lose your own witness stand. Love bombing is overwhelming someone with affection, attention, and validation early on. Fast, intense, and constant. It feels like being chosen. It's actually being installed. Mechanically, it floods your brain with dopamine faster than a normal relationship ever could. Your nervous system mistakes intensity for intimacy, speed for sincerity. You skip the slow trust building your brain evolved to require, because the flood short-circuits your caution. Here's where it gets interesting. The same tactic used by a genuinely infatuated person and a calculated manipulator looks identical from the inside. Intent doesn't show up on your nervous system. Only the pattern over time reveals it. Once you're hooked on that high, any withdrawal of attention feels like starvation, and you'll do almost anything to get the flood back. It feels like being wanted. It's actually being trained. Guilt tripping is using someone's empathy against them, making them feel responsible for your emotions, so they act to relieve your discomfort instead of addressing the actual issue. It hijacks care and points it inward. Your brain is wired to reduce the distress of people close to you. That's the empathy circuit doing its job. A guilt tripper exploits that circuit directly, broadcasting pain as a demand disguised as a feeling. You comply not because you're convinced, but because their suffering has become your emergency. Here's the uncomfortable angle. The guiltiest people are often the easiest to guilt trip, because they already believe they owe something. Manipulators don't create guilt from nothing. They find where it already lives and press. Over time, you stop asking, "Is this fair?" and start only asking, "Will this make the discomfort stop?" It looks like conscience. It's actually control wearing conscience's face. Scarcity manipulation convinces you something is about to disappear, a deal, an opportunity, a person, to force a decision before you can think clearly. Urgency replaces judgment. Your brain has a threat response system built for physical danger, and scarcity language hijacks it for decisions that carry no actual danger. Only two left, or she's losing interest, triggers the same alarm as a predator in the grass. Under that alarm, your prefrontal cortex, the part that weighs pros and cons, goes quiet, and your impulsive brain takes the wheel. Here's what's rarely said out loud. Real opportunities almost never require you to decide in the next 10 minutes. Genuine value doesn't need a countdown clock. Manufactured urgency is often the clearest sign something isn't actually rare. Living under constant artificial urgency keeps you making decisions from panic instead of preference. It feels like opportunity. It's actually a clock built to make you stop thinking. Social proof is the pull to believe or do something simply because other people appear to believe or do it. It's not persuasion by evidence. It's persuasion by head count. Your brain evolved in small groups where the crowd's behavior was a genuine survival shortcut. If everyone ran, there was probably something to run from. Modern manipulators exploit that shortcut by manufacturing the appearance of a crowd, fake reviews, bought followers, planted testimonials, staged consensus. Your brain can't tell manufactured agreement from real agreement. It just counts. Here's the part that stings. You can know intellectually that reviews are fake and still feel safer buying the product with 5,000 of them. Awareness doesn't fully disable the reflex. At scale, this is how entire populations get moved, not by better arguments, just by louder illusions of agreement. It feels like collective wisdom. It's often just a mirror facing itself. This technique gets you to agree to something small first, so you're more likely to agree to something much larger later. The first yes isn't the goal, it's the setup. Mechanically, your brain craves consistency between your actions and your self-image. Once you've said yes to a small request, refusing the bigger one creates internal friction. You'd have to admit the first yes meant nothing, or that you're the kind of person who flip-flops. Most people resolve that friction by just saying yes again. Here's the part that's hard to accept. You're not being tricked by the manipulator's argument at that second yes. You're being tricked by your own memory of your first yes. This is why healthy boundaries get eroded in inches, never in one dramatic leap. Nobody notices the door opening a crack at a time. It feels like staying consistent. It's actually staying captured. Intermittent reinforcement is rewarding a behavior unpredictably instead of every time. Sometimes warmth, sometimes coldness. No pattern you can map. It's the single most addictive structure in psychology, more powerful than steady reward. Your dopamine system doesn't spike hardest for a reliable reward. It spikes hardest for an uncertain one. The same mechanism that makes slot machines more compelling than a vending machine. When affection or approval arrives at random, your brain starts chasing the next hit instead of evaluating whether the relationship is actually good for you. Here's the part nobody wants to hear. You can consciously know the relationship is bad for you and still crave it more than a stable one. Unpredictability doesn't just tolerate your judgment, it overrides it. This is why people stay in relationships that hurt them more than ones that were simply boring. It feels like chemistry. It's actually a slot machine with a heartbeat. Triangulation is bringing a third person, real, exaggerated, or invented, into a conflict to create jealousy, competition, or insecurity that didn't exist before. Two people, suddenly, are performing for an audience of one. The mechanism runs on comparison. Your brain evaluates your own worth, partly, by ranking yourself against others nearby, an old status tracking function. A manipulator introduces a rival, real or not, and your brain automatically starts scoring itself against them, usually unfavorably, because you're comparing your full self against someone else's highlight reel. Here's the part most people miss. The third person is often barely involved. Their role isn't to actually replace you. Their role is to exist just vividly enough in your mind that you compete for a position nobody was taking from you. You end up fighting for a spot that was never actually threatened. It looks like a romantic rivalry. It's actually a spotlight aimed at your insecurity. DARVO stands for deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. A defense used when someone is confronted with their own wrongdoing. They deny it happened, attack your credibility for raising it, then recast themselves as the one being hurt. This works because confrontation usually makes people flinch and soften, and manipulators exploit that flinch by escalating instead of de-escalating. Within seconds, you go from raising a legitimate concern to defending yourself against accusations you never saw coming. The conversation's whole center of gravity shifts. Here's the part that's genuinely disorienting. You can walk away from a conversation you started about something they did, apologizing to them. That's not a coincidence. That's the technique working exactly as designed. People who use this reliably don't get less credible over time. They get away with more because each successful reversal removes one more witness willing to speak up. It feels like conflict resolution. It's actually the crime scene rearranging itself. Negging is a backhanded insult wrapped in a compliment, delivered casually, designed to create a flicker of insecurity right before the person offers approval. It's not an accident of tone, it's a calculated 1-2. The mechanism targets your need for social approval directly. A small, ambiguous put-down destabilizes your sense of stand-in, just enough that you start seeking reassurance from the very person who caused the wobble. You end up performing for approval you didn't need until they took it away. Here's the uncomfortable truth. This only works on people with a healthy amount of self-awareness, because you have to notice the jab to feel destabilized by it. Ironically, more self-aware people can be more vulnerable to it, not less. Chase approval from someone who controls the thermostat of your self-esteem, and you'll never feel warm for long. It feels like playful teasing. It's actually a hand on the dimmer switch of your confidence. What ties every one of these together isn't cruelty. It's a shortcut in your own brain being used without your consent. None of them require you to be stupid, weak, or naive. They require you to be human, running the same mental software everyone runs. The uncomfortable question isn't, how do I spot manipulators? It's this: now that you can see the mechanism, which of your own beliefs, relationships, and decisions were actually built on it? And are you willing to look?